Welcome to The Hopeful Divorce. I'm Hope, your family law friend. After working in family law firms for many years and watching thousands of divorces play out, I've learned some things about what does and doesn't work, and I'm here to share.
This question is from the Divorce Dad subreddit. My daughter broke my heart. Well, I didn't think it would happen, and today it did. My daughter told me she didn't want to visit. It crushed me. I had a heated conversation with her mother, my ex, who told me I had to pull my car over because I was so upset I couldn't drive. For context, my daughter is 17. She lives 3 states away with her mother. She has always lived with her mother, and I have only had visitation. We lived out there with her family after my daughter was born and tried to start our lives. Well, things didn't pan out and we split up. Divorced, custody battle, court hearings for both, the whole 9. After the divorce, I was in a pretty dark place and came home to recover. Things got better for me. I met my now wife, had 2 more kids. Things between my ex and I have always been rough, but things have improved there as well. My eldest daughter has never been short on my affection, even with everything going on here. I text her often, follow her on social media accounts, and generally try to be involved in her life because I'm absent in person. Visitation used to be something we kept on pretty well while she was younger, but as she has gotten older, we have modified many of her trips out here she takes, canceling some in order to accommodate for things they have going on in their home. A lot of these I feel I have gotten the shorter end of the stick. This summer comes and we are planning her coming out since Christmas. She sent me her dates, 10 days that she could visit, and I had my wife book the trip. I asked her to text my daughter to confirm and make sure nothing changed, to which she did, and they changed to a full 2 weeks. My wife got the cheapest tickets we could get, still $800, and booked it. Well, my ex texted me that she wasn't consulted before it was finalized, to which I had no knowledge of. We had a pretty heated conversation. There was some old baggage was opened up, and it ended pretty quick. I spoke with my daughter a few days later because she wanted to change the dates. I asked her why, and she justified her answer, which in short was she would be bored for so much of it. I told her we bought the cheap plane tickets and they were non-refundable and that she was stuck with the arrangements she made. I had also noted that I would only be seeing her for a month total this year and wanted every moment I could get. She was pretty bummed. She understood. Today I got a text from my ex saying we need to talk. I called her when I finished work mid-afternoon. She informed me that my daughter wants to cancel her trip until Christmas. We had another heated conversation in which I hung up on her. I was driving when the conversation began, at which I had to pull over shortly after to calm down. I broke down crying. I sat for an hour regaining myself before I could finish my drive home. Am I overreacting? I do understand she's a teenager and wants to spend time at home with her boyfriend, but I only get a little bit of time with her and want as much time as I can get with her. Should I let this go as she's a teenager and needs to evolve as a person, even though I'm losing what little time I have with her and feel at a loss for all the time I've already lost? I am open to questions and will answer what I can. Oh, wow. I feel for this, Dad. This is a tough situation, and it is a somewhat common one. Parents can reach a parenting schedule that works really well when the children are young. And as they get older, the children's needs change and the usual schedule doesn't work as well. Now, when there's a big geographic distance, that makes it a lot harder to accommodate it. And because what will happen, it's a very common arrangement when you live far apart, a long drive away. It's pretty common that they will spend the whole summer with their parent that lives out of the area. And then also spend a long time at holiday breaks during school as well in order to try and equalize the time, as close as you possibly can so they can have more of a connection with that out of area parent. But what happens with teenagers is that their lives revolve around their friends and their social life. And so to spend the whole summer away from their friends is actually not great for them anymore. When they're younger, it works fine. So this is a very common scenario. And I really feel for this dad because I understand he feels like I miss so much time with her. And now I can't even have this summer. What I would say, it also sounds like there's a long history of high conflict between him and the mother, that they went to court and had a trial for the divorce and for custody. And so it sounds like they're a pretty high conflict situation. Where I would say his mistake was in this is that he wasn't really listening to his daughter. And I understand how this can happen. He's just thinking about, I barely get to see you. And his wife texted with the daughter. They made a plan for these dates. Teenagers are flaky. Teenagers, when they say, sure, yeah, I'll do 2 weeks. And then they change their mind. It's just kind of the nature of how things are when they're younger. They don't necessarily think things through and then after the fact, they go, oh gosh, I'm going to end up being bored at dad's house for 2 full weeks. And so because the decision was made quickly, which I can understand, it sounds like stepmom was trying to get a deal on airline tickets. You have to buy things when the opportunity is there to buy them. I kind of understand everybody's position in this situation. The teenager doesn't want to be away that long. When she's talked to her dad about it and said, I'm going to be bored, he didn't address that she's bored when she's at his house. Instead, he just kind of stepped over that and said, but I don't get to see you very much. And that's a very human response. But he's the parent in this situation. When your child says, I'm going to be bored at your house and I don't want to come, making her feel bad about the fact that you don't get to see her very often is not the mature, grown-up way to handle that scenario. Ask her more about it. Why are you bored at our house? What can we do to have it be a better time for you while you're at our house? Maybe dad needs to take a couple days off while she's there and spend some quality time, just the two of them together. If she says she's bored, sometimes in blended families, when you have a child that is from a prior marriage or prior relationship, it's very important for that parent to have some solo time. It's okay, of course, it's good for them to have time with their step siblings or their half siblings. Like that is of course, important too. But some solo time between the parent and the child during their visitation time is really important. They need that time where they're just solo. And, I wonder if that's really been happening. And if the teenager just feels like she's just spending this time at her dad's house, but there's not really much quality time with her dad, or maybe there's some other reason that's going on. She says that she's bored. You need to dig a little bit deeper and talk with her about it. And then it is okay to say, you said 2 weeks worked for you. Teenagers also need to learn that when they give their word to something, they need to stick to it. This happens to teenagers all the time, whether their parents are together or not. Teenagers tend to be flaky and they say they want to do something, then they back out, and that's not good. To be a healthy adult, they need to learn to stick to their word. And when they commit to doing something, they have to follow through on it. So it's not completely wrong. Dad is saying, hey, you agreed to this and you need to follow it. That is a natural part of parenting, but there are some limits to it. And because you didn't get your ex's buy-in on this and you made the change without talking to her, anytime you have an agreement with the co-parent and then a change happens, you need to touch base with the co-parent and be like, hey, she says she wants 2 weeks now. My wife is going to buy the tickets for 2 weeks, and give her a short amount of time to voice her concerns about it and make sure, it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's a text message. It's a little bit of occasion. I understand why the mom in this scenario feels blindsided. Hey, we agreed to 10 days. This is how I was planning things. And now all of a sudden it's 2 weeks. And then the 17-year-old is saying, I don't even really want to go that long. So I understand why this all happened. And I feel for everybody in this situation. And so my recommendation for this dad is to first, he needs to reach out to his daughter and apologize for pressuring her to agree to this and making her feel bad that he didn't get to spend much time with her, because that wasn't the right approach. Now, it was the right approach for him to say, you gave your word and you're not following your word, and we need to discuss that. And I think rather than just letting this go until Christmas, Let's see what kind of solution you can come up with and say, I want to spend more time with you. I barely get to see you. What is going to work for everyone? And have a conversation with her and teach her how you resolve things when you're feeling pressured to agree to something. How do you negotiate for yourself and figure out something that's workable for everybody? Maybe you need to change one of the tickets so that she can come back a little bit earlier, or maybe dad needs to go visit her in where she's at. Maybe they instead of her coming a few times a year, maybe dad can do some short trips to her area. Something like that, so that they can spend a little bit of time together. Maybe you can find a solution like that. I don't know exactly what the solution is for these people, but more communication needs to happen. And the thing is, when teenagers get older, enforcing the parenting schedule is one of the biggest challenges. Balancing their needs as a teenager, their social life, and all of those things that are so important to them, and also balancing the fact that the children do need to have frequent contact with both parents. It's important that she has a relationship with her dad. He should not be getting the short end of the stick all of the time. He should concede to certain things that are in her best interest, but then this is where it says, how are we going to make up for this? Where is another time where she can come and visit? Lots of conversations on an ongoing basis. And if you can't work it out because things are so contentious with mom and dad, maybe you need to work with a mediator. And lots of mediators work exclusively over Zoom. There are lots of mediators that just have regular sessions, ongoing once a year, a couple times a year between the parents, and help them work these things out. Having a neutral party guide the conversation can really make a huge difference. So I do hope it works out for this dad. And I'm sorry that this is so hard. I do understand why your heart is broken, but I would challenge you to not say your daughter broke your heart. Your daughter didn't break your heart. This situation, which is challenging for everyone, is leaving you with a broken heart. Taking a quick pause in today's episode to remind you, this podcast is built around your questions. If you're navigating divorce, separation, property division, child support, custody, co-parenting, blended families, or anything in between, you don't have to figure it out alone. Chances are, if you're wondering about something, someone else is too. You can submit your questions anytime through my website at hopefuldivorce.com. Whether it's a big, complicated situation or a simple, what does this legal term mean, or why does this happen this way? All questions are welcome. I read every submission, and your question could be featured in an upcoming episode to help not just you, but others going through similar experiences. So if something's been on your mind, send in your question. Let's keep the conversation moving forward. This question is from the Divorce Dads subreddit. Anyone divorce without separate lawyers? Long story short, my wife had an affair. She doesn't believe she is capable of reconciling, and we are moving towards divorce. As of right now, things are amicable, and we both want this to be as clean as possible. We agree on everything financial and custody related. We spoke with a divorce mediator today. It is still going to run around $7,000 to $8,000 despite being in full agreement. I would much rather save that money for the obvious added expenses coming our way when she moves out. Has anyone gone this route? Any advice for or against would be greatly appreciated. This is a great question. First, I love hearing stories where people can reach agreement themselves. It's far more common than people realize. For the most part, you can reach agreement on what's going to happen with your finances. You don't have to work with an outside professional. You can do it yourselves, but I caution you to be careful with doing everything 100% yourselves. The law is complicated, and sometimes you can do things that you don't understand the ramifications of, and you find out later down the road you wish you had talked to a lawyer. And there are certain things that you might agree to that you're simply not allowed to do. Like, for example, in Ontario, where I live and work, you can't agree to no child support. the child has a right to child support. There are a few situations where child support is zeroed out, but the child support doesn't go away. It's a case where you have equal parenting time and the parents make equal income, and technically both parents are paying child support to each other, but they cancel each other out. Mom would pay 500, dad would pay 500, so it ends up being zero. But there's still child support happening. It just happens to be that way. And you can't put in your separation agreement that we agree to waive child support. That's against the law in Ontario. And it's like that in a lot of places, not just Ontario. So there are certain things that you just can't do, even if you want to. For example, in Ontario, you can't agree to give up your entire pension. You can't give more than half of your retirement account to your spouse. So if you're trying to, divide things up in a particular way, there are some things that you can't do. So it's good to talk to a lawyer. Now, there are some good online resources out there. I mean, the government of Ontario, for example, even has a parenting plan tool that you can use for free, that you can put in information and it will draft your parenting plan for you. It's sort of like a fill in the blank, check the boxes, and it'll help create part of your parenting plan for you. So there are some great resources out there. And there are also legal software programs that you can pay for. I wouldn't use anything free, and I wouldn't rely on ChatGPT or things like that. I would pay for some legal software and I would use it. And then using those tools that are going to be much more cost effective, write up a draft, have your ex look it over and make sure they're comfortable with it too. And then you take that draft to a lawyer and get some independent legal advice. Now, that lawyer is going to be representing you. You can't have one lawyer representing both of you. It's a conflict of interest. Lawyers aren't allowed to do that. But you can take it to your lawyer and say, did I do this right? Did I miss anything? Give me some advice on what you think about this. And that lawyer will only be looking out for your interest. And they'll say, hey, if you agree to this, you're leaving some money on the table. Or if you agree to this, this could happen later. And they will basically tell you where the holes are in your agreement, where the problems that you might not be aware of now that could come up later. That's what a lawyer's job is. And if you just pay for a consultation, you're looking at whatever that lawyer's hourly rate is for 1 to 2 hours. It's not a lot of money, and it's money very well spent. And they might tell you hey, this part here, that's illegal. You can't put that in there. And so then, by doing that, it makes the agreement durable. Now, that's a legal term. It means that it's strong. It's going to stand up later. So you have your lawyer give you advice on, what they think you should do in terms of your interest. And then you make those changes to it. And then you give it to your ex, and your ex should go see their own lawyer and do the exact same thing. Just have a consultation and get some independent legal advice. So when you're calling lawyers, you're telling them, I'm not looking for full representation. I'm looking for a consultation for some independent legal advice. We've already reached agreement, but I want some advice before I sign and finalize things. And, it may cost you a little bit, but it's not going to cost you, $7,000 or $8,000 to do that. And that way you are both legally protected. Both of you can feel confident and comfortable signing the agreement, and you don't have to have all the drama. You don't have to have all the fireworks, and you don't have to, waste a lot of money. So you don't have to jump through all of those hoops. But I really caution against just doing it 100% on your own. I think that there are a lot of people, and I have worked on cases over the years where people did it themselves, and they just kind of took some examples of things they found on the internet or copied something that they found somewhere from someone, and they made some mistakes, and then those cases ended up in court later because it wasn't written in a way that made certain things clear and it was ambiguous. And then in order to agree later on what that meant, now you've got lawyers fighting in court. And I've seen lots of cases like that. I've done lots of legal research on those types of contracts where people sign agreements without legal advice. And there are a lot of stories out there where it just doesn't end well for everybody. So getting some lawyer involvement really it's mandatory no matter how you can do it. And if you don't have the means to hire a lawyer, draft your own and then contact your local courthouse. If you're in Ontario, you may be able to speak with duty counsel. There may be ways for you to get some legal help where you can just get a little bit of independent legal advice and some support.
Thanks for listening to The Hopeful Divorce. If this episode was helpful to you, share it with someone who might need it, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And as you deal with challenges of separation, divorce, and rebuilding your life, always remember the wise words that Christopher Robin told his friend Winnie the Pooh. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep moving forward.